Welcome to February 25th LeetCode Challenge. Compare version numbers. Given two numbers, version 1 and version 2, compare them. Each version number consists of one or more revisions joined by a dot, so the period character. Each revision consists of digits that may contain leading zeros. Every revision contains at least one character. Revisions are zero indexed from left to right, with the leftmost revision being revision 0, the next revision being revision 1, and so on. For example, 2.5.33 and 0.1 are valid version numbers. To compare version numbers, compare the revision in left to right. Revisions are compared using their integer values, ignoring any leading zeros. This means that revisions 1 and 0.001 are considered equal. If a version number does not specify a revision at an index, then treat the revision as 0. For example, version 1.0 is less than 1.1. Because the revisions are zeros are the same, but their revisions 1s are 0 and 1 respectively, therefore 0 is less than 1. So return the following. So if version 1 is less than version 2, return -1. If version 1 is greater than version 2, return 1. Otherwise, return 0. So let's look at some examples here. We have version 1 equaling being 1.01. and version 2 being 1.001, and therefore the version numbers are let's see, the version numbers does not specify a revision index. Treat the revision as 0. So therefore that's actually not true. Let's see. So we see 0.1 and 0.001 will be treated, represented as 1 as an integer. Therefore, we ignore a leading 0, so treating both 0.1 and 001 representing the same integer 1. Therefore, they are the same, therefore return 0. We have a version 1 equal 1.0 and version 2 equaling 1.0.0. Therefore, we'd ignore, version 1 does not specify revision 2. Therefore, it means that we treat it as a 0, so they're both version 1, essentially. And we have version 1 being 0.1, and we have version 2 equaling revision 1.1. Therefore, we know that 1.1 is greater than 0.1. Therefore, version 1 is less than version 2. Therefore, return -1. So our constraints are that we have version 1 length of version 2 being between 1 to 500. Version 1 and 2 contains only the digits and a point. Versions 1 and 2 are version numbers, that contain valid version numbers, as I say. And all revisions of version 1, version 2 contain a 32-bit integer. Alright, that's a lot of reading, but essentially you want to compare version numbers, and the higher version number will return 1. The version 1 is greater than version 2, and we just got to actually do these 3 scenarios. So if, say, the thing we could do is basically use string operators to kind of flush out some of the leading zeros and the point numbers as well. So we could split them as well. So say for v1 being version 1 and v2 being version 2. So we're going to use itertools, the Python module. So it's called zip longest. So it's a function that you should get familiar with. It's in the itertools, the Python module. It's a pretty handy tool in case you need to use it for some time. But if you didn't know before, here you go. It takes in three parameters. The first one is going to be your version 1. However, we're going to split it first by cleaning up the strings. I'm going to split it using the dot operator. I mean, not the dot, the dot right here. We'll just copy the same notation it uses. And that takes up the second parameter being version 2. Same thing, we're going to split it at the dot. And then it takes in something called a fill value. So fill value, it's going to be the fill value is going to be zipping from the longest. So it means it's going to try to ignore any leading zeros as well. That's one of the handy things with this function here. So fill value of 0. So let's see, we have everything we need, and it is for loop, so we need 2. So basically we define 2 variables where we zip the longest between the split version of 1, split version of 2, and the ignoring leading zeros. Therefore, we basically pretty much have what we need, and all we need to do now is fulfill this condition. So before we do that, they are strings, so we need to convert them to integers to compare them. So we have v1, v2, and that's going to be int v1, int v2, and then if v1 is greater than v2, return, so if v1 is greater than v2, return 1. Else if v1 is less than v2, return -1. Otherwise, return 0. So that should be straightforward. Let's just see if it works. Sure. Excellent. Accepted. So memory complexity is using basically constant memory because we return -1 or 0, so that's pretty great. So that's for memory complexity, I should say. Space complexity, no, that's for space complexity. Time complexity. So we have a for loop here, and we use the zip function as well. And the zip function's time complexity is big O of the largest length of the version. So if version 1 equals version 2, the greatest, I guess, character count within the version number. So it'll be the longest length, or the maximum length between version 1 and 2. So it'll be big O of that. Plus, we also have a for loop as well. Not plus, yeah, pretty much that exactly. So it'll be the big O of the maximum length of version 1 or 2. Alright, that's it. Have a great day, guys.